will let you do that. And roll call, we have 2 members, myself and Al. We're both here. And then I guess Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Then approval of the agenda. So with the 2 of us, one has to make the motion, the other has to support it. I'll make the motion to approve the agenda as presented.
And I approve it.
Okay. You support it?
Support it. Yes.
Okay. Any discussion, changes, or corrections? Hearing none. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. Then we move on to approval of the last 2 meetings minutes, which were August 7th, a year of 23, and September 11th of 2023. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes for those 2 meetings as presented.
I support it.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Any public comment? No, our big crowd isn't here. Correspondence, I don't have anything under that to report. Director's report, I didn't write anything up. It's been so long, and so much has happened. So, I mean, I guess I'll just try to run through, but we kind of all know it, but it doesn't hurt just to kind of walk through what has happened. So, after our last meeting where we had a quorum, which was a long time ago, we had resignations from the board, which brought us below the point of actually being able to hold a meeting because we couldn't have quorum with a 5-member commission and only 2 members remaining. So you and I met with city manager and Bradford and kind of discussed, did it make sense to go forward or to call it quits? And then if we did move forward, how would that be done? And the 2 of us basically said we're willing to give it a year and see if we can try to pull things together. And then the mechanism of doing that was to change our bylaws and change the city's charter to reduce the commission size from 5 to 3 so that 2 constitutes quorum. And then that took a while for those city council approvals to work their way through the process. And that happened last month, and thus we are back to being able to meet. In the meantime, other things of significance that have transpired are the fact that the equipment for our Charter Spectrum broadcasts on Charter Spectrum cable were located in the Manistee Kennedy Elementary building, former middle school, former high school. And because they're doing their renovation project there, the station went offline a number of months ago. But without the ability to meet and authorize spending money to fix that, we were kind of just stuck in the water. So during this interim period, I have had discussions with Charter Spectrum on moving that equipment from that old building to our current location, which is in the middle high school, and they provided me with a quote and contract to do that, which is in new business later on. And other than that, I've still been recording Manistee Township meetings, Filer Township meetings, DDA meetings, and all the other city commissions and city council meetings are recorded through the facility here. All of those have been on an ongoing basis posted on our website and our YouTube channel. So even though they're not available on Charter Spectrum, they are available to the public through those means. And that's about it. So that's my director's report. Old business, I didn't list anything. There were things that we were talking about a while ago, but at this point it just really makes more sense to start over and figure out where we're going to go, which takes us to new business. And I think I'll actually start with, I'm going to skip that first discussion and go to the other two first, and then we can go back to, so the second item under new business is this Charter Spectrum agreement. And as I was mentioning before the meeting, I got this probably a couple months ago, but again, we couldn't act on it because we couldn't hold meetings. So I just opened it, saw that the total at the bottom was the amount that they told me it was going to cost about, which was $6,000, and then I didn't look at it again. Today, I actually read through it, and yes, that is $6,000 one-time cost to basically move the equipment. But then there, to my surprise, there are line items in there that total $3,200 per month for a contract of 36 months, which is roughly $40,000 a year, for things that I don't really understand, since currently we pay zero.
Right.
So I don't know why suddenly it's now going to cost $40,000 a year, other than it may just be Charter Spectrum's way of slowly killing off public access channels because they don't want to support them. Mm-hmm. But I need to follow up. So I was hoping tonight that we would just approve the $6,000 and be, happy, but there's no way we can commit to a $40,000 annual for 3 years plus $6,000 when there's no revenue stream that could support that. So
I wonder if other towns pay that.
Well,
3.2K.
And it's broken up weird because it's two line items, and one is a 50 megabit fiber connection for $3,100 some a month, which I've got at the airport I've got an AT&T fiber connection that costs me $80 a month. So I don't know where $3,100 plus comes from. And then there's a $45 a month PEG channel fee. Yeah. So that seems reasonable. I mean, it's but where that other one comes from and why it's required or what. So, and then yes, I think you said, what do other cities if they say, come back and say, no, this is what it costs, I'm gonna, well, is Livingston paying this much?
Right.
Is Cadillac paying this much? Is our neighbors like, oh, well, why not? And try to sort it out. But yeah, that kind of ticked me off today when I saw that. So I'm not recommending that we approve that agreement tonight, and I go back and.
Can you improve it conditionally for the 6K, or do you want to wait till you have an answer?
I want to wait till I have an answer because I have a feeling there are going to be some recurring monthly charges, and I really want to know what they're going to be before we commit to doing anything or agree to do anything, because at some point we then have to have the conversation. Do we just... Cable viewership is declining and has been for a decade, and in previous conversations we've had, it's like, well, we should continue it because certain demographics still watch much more than other demographics within our community. But at a certain price point, then it makes sense not to do that. And then we have to revise the question, does it make sense to move forward without that component? Even though, in my opinion, long-term, that was going to be the case anyway, it just maybe moved up that
Right.
timeline significantly, so.
Interesting.
Then the next item is Onekama Township. So Ed Bradford, who's also the treasurer of Onekama Township, as well as the city treasurer, has been recording their township board meetings and submitting them. I've been putting them on YouTube and the website like all other content. He asked me if they could have their own section on the website, like Manistee Township, Filer Township, and the city do. And my answer to him was, I bring that request to the commission to discuss, but I said I felt that those other entities have in the past, although not all currently, financially supported PEG in some way, and that's why they earned the right to have kind of their own grouping. All other content just gets put under community content.
Mm-hmm.
So I said I would have that conversation. I didn't think it was going to take 7 months before I was going to be able to bring it up, but so what are your thoughts? I mean,
Are the others, like Filer, I know you said had been paying.
Filer and Manistee Township, well, city, I mean, all three of those entities no longer are financially contributing directly.
Right.
The city provides us services because they do all of our financial accounting and stuff like that. So there are benefits we get from the city that don't cost us anything. Filer and Manistee Township, we stopped invoicing them on an annual basis when COVID hit and haven't restarted because we've been in this perpetual limbo land. But my intention was to go back to them once we had a strategy and ask them to contribute again like they did in the past.
To partition, or just to make a section on the web for Econo.
Yep.
It's ones and zeros, right?
Yeah,
But then it's the, if they're paying, why aren't you paying thing?
correct.
What if you split the difference, add the two together and divide it by 3? Like, charge them all a little less.
But then we have to get into the question of what is our fee structure
Right.
and what are they paying for? So
So
now, part of what they're paying for Filer and Manistee Township is someone coming monthly and recording their meetings. There is a
service.
service that's being provided that's above and beyond, whereas for Onekama, they're doing the recordings themselves and just submitting them, so.
In anticipation of potential new business, right?
Yes.
Like the calendar or things like that,
Right.
where you may even like start to divide the site
Yes.
differently. Like, to your point, like if they're just providing the content, then maybe there shouldn't be a charge, but if you're providing the labor to those other 2 townships,
But then, so the Scottville square dancing,
right,
should they get their own
or to their section.
Where is the line then? Is it anybody that asks that submits content can have a section, or?
I mean, like, it depends on how you start to design this,
Right.
redesign the site, right? Like,
So
if it's done intuitively.
So it's almost, I think, a question of where are we going to be?
Yeah,
And then, once we know that, then we can answer this question.
yeah, I agree. And I mean, I think intuitively, I would say there should be no charge, right? If they're providing their own service and their own content. They upload and do everything like that.
Right.
you don't have to, you know, other than maybe approve, like hit an approval or something.
Right,
Then it probably is for the community good.
right. It should be as easy as
Yeah.
possible.
Right.
But we also have to somehow figure out a revenue model that allows us to cover expenses as we go forward, so we can't do everything for everybody for free.
Yeah.
So I guess I told Ed I would bring it up. I don't think we're in a position where we can
No.
answer the question. And I don't necessarily want to set expectations or precedents while we don't know where we're going to be long-term. Especially since this has kind of been now the status quo for about a year for them, so
Right.
it's not like,
I say revisit in 2 months, once we have like a concrete plan for.
well, you're optimistic.
I think we'll, I mean.
Okay, no,
we've got-
good.
We've got a quorum.
We do
Right.
have a quorum, but it occurred to me today that because a quorum of us is 2, anytime we meet, we are technically a quorum of this board, and
Gotcha.
therefore,
It's got a record.
we can't meet outside of this.
Yeah.
So like, before this change, we met for coffee and kind of had a conversation about
Right.
where we're gonna go. We can't do that anymore because we are the board. So
Unless,
we have to then meet more frequently or
Right.
longer in public session and have discussions.
we can, for example, if we make a plan, we start to work on the plan, we want to have a conversation about the next step of the plan, or where, like, some
Yep.
ones and zeros work, or contacting an outside entity about something, that doesn't need to be a meeting, because that's,
No, it does.
okay, oh, it does? Okay.
Any communication we have, I mean, 'cause you can violate Open Meetings Act through email. If a majority of a board is discussing things over email, that is a violation of open meetings, so it's,
I guess we just need to have like formulate like a good plan, and then like do as much as possible in the meeting.
right, yeah, I mean,
That we can
it just
do.
means that we're gonna have to spend more time
Yeah,
doing this as opposed to doing it in some other format.
okay.
So,
And how-
It just occurred to me today that, oh, well, that's a consequence of where we are.
How impromptu can it be? Can it be like, can you meet like on, like another night when a meeting's here, like the tree commission is here, can we meet afterwards, and does Tom have to be there every time?
That is a good question. I would say no. But the city council wants all commission meetings videotaped.
Okay,
But we have camera equipment, so we can either be trained how to use this, or we can just record it through our own equipment and cover it that way.
yeah, okay.
So,
I think odds are I can come and help, with certain times and that. I mean,
right, but it could get pretty boring for you.
We gotta move quick.
but
So, but I mean, I
I
don't
can
want to
make-
exclude you, but I
Yeah.
don't want to waste your time either. So
Yeah.
That's,
Okay, so that makes sense to me. I mean, the bulk of the work, should it all come to fruition, I think can be done.
I mean, we can come together, each
Yeah.
get tasks, go
Yes.
do them, and then come back.
Yeah,
and compare
report,
notes,
yeah.
Figure things out,
Perfect.
so.
Okay,
Um,
so tabling the Onekama
Yep,
part.
and then that takes us back to, well, where do we go? And as I alluded to, before we became a official commission of 3 members with 2 currently active, we've been talking before that, so that wasn't at that time an issue of open meetings, which it would be now.
Sure.
But we had, and it been just a kind of a continuation of things that have been started and stopped over the last few years here. But really looking at a new website, and with that being the focus of our content and our mission going forward, and relying less on the charter spectrum component of it. And as we talked earlier, that may happen sooner rather than later. But then thinking of other, from our users, so the residents of this community in this county, what is it that we can provide them that brings them more in touch with the types of content that we traditionally have delivered, which is access to local government, access to education, and general public access to those bodies.
Mm-hmm.
And the content of meetings, thus the videos that we've traditionally done, is kind of a starting point. But we've talked a lot about community calendar, because that is something that is lacking in our community, is a single source community calendar that works both ways. One way where people know where to get information,
Right.
as opposed to there's a little bit here, there's a little bit here, there's a little bit, some things on this website, there's some things on that website, trying to pull things together. And also a place for people who are hosting events or
Sure.
things they want the public to know about. They know where to go, as opposed to, oh, the library has a calendar, oh, the
Right.
visitor center has a calendar.
Your one-stop shop.
And, you know, if I'm hosting an event, I don't know who to contact. I may know the newspaper as well. I don't know who to contact, so therefore I may know one or two, but I don't get nearly the exposure that I potentially could need. So there's aspects on both sides of that. And I think given our tie into local government meetings, which are one entity that's kind of missing or spread throughout a lot of calendars, because generally each township, the city, the county has their own website with that information there, but it's, again, not centralized, it's all spread around. So it seems like something we could do. I sit on the Manistee Tourism Board, and I've briefly mentioned that we were thinking about this because they're probably one of the heavier users or holders of calendar information. Obviously, their focus is a subset of all of the things that are out there, but that's part of the challenge here, is how do you have a central repository but yet allow people to pick and choose the things they're looking for.
Right.
So that's a piece of it. And, you know, as we go through this, there can be a lot of other things. So I also do want to mention that the last time we met, I had mentioned to you that I was setting up this video server, and I don't know if you ever looked at it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So I have actually completed loading content in it. So basically, every one of our nearly 2,000 videos that are on YouTube are now also hosted there.
Okay.
And it's set up so every time a new one, it automatically syncs across. So there is now a repository that has all of our historic content, and that can hopefully be a basis of that piece going forward. Because while YouTube is really nice that they, for free, give you basically infinite storage, and they're in it for profit. So they can at any time decide to say, you don't exist anymore. We had some complaint, some violation of terms of service, we're taking you down. We can't monetize our content except through the channels they provide. And we're way too small to
Reap any
be in a
benefits.
position to monetize anything. So it potentially is a risk factor for us relying on it, and also limits us locally to our small community.
So the idea would be you go to manisteetv.com and then it's pinging the other server and pulling the content from there?
When you say other server,
Or would it all be, so everything would be on that one server?
it may be federated across a few different servers,
Okay.
but it is essentially would be all something we would host.
Okay, gotcha, that's what I
As opposed to.
Okay, and so, it's manisteetv.com, right? Or is it .org?
It's .com. We may have .org too. I don't remember right now.
So now by going there and you click on one of the videos, it's just taking you to YouTube and you're watching it there.
No,
It's embedded.
It's streaming it from its own. So it is completely independent of YouTube. The only tie it has to YouTube is right now I load a video on YouTube and it every 4 hours says, oh, there's a new video, and sucks it in.
Okay.
So that it replicates it.
So it would be, if the idea, which I agree with, is to go to get the video side of things, and then you have the community calendar, like, an inclusive community calendar, and then defining inclusive later, right?
Right.
What would be the immediate next steps that would move the ball?
That is a good question. I'll just throw out some ideas.
Sure.
So one could be that we redo our current website, focused basically on the video aspect, and get that improved. And thinking first about those things, because if what we have and our current website is very lacking,
Right.
and try to, as going through that process, think of ways that are that allow us to engage with the community more. So, for example, right now there is no proactive notification out to users of content through our website. There is, that is a feature of YouTube. So we have, roughly 400 subscribers on our YouTube channel. So they get notified through YouTube. How they've set up,
Right.
They may get notified, or it just may come up in their recommended, or various different ways that can happen. But it's all or nothing. Chances are, if someone is subscribed to us, they're interested in city council or city stuff, or they're interested in Filer stuff, or they're interested in Onekma stuff. They're probably not interested in all of it.
Mm-hmm.
In the new platform, I've broken basically things out by, they use the same terminology, so it's channel. But Filer Township is its own channel, and Manistee Township is, so you can subscribe at that level, so there's more granularity. So again, thinking through ways to more engage with the community, as opposed to just being, yeah, we're here, no one knows about it,
Right.
and and trying to figure out a way of making it more approachable and usable, the content.
And what about the design part of it? Is that something you would want to do, or is that something you would want to?
That is something I think we, unless you have more design skills than I think you do, that is something I think we need to hire out, that aspect. We need to think through the functionality.
Right, yes, map it.
And then hire somebody else to make it look pretty.
And what we're going for is the two-part, call it two-part, right? You have the catalog of meetings.
Yep.
And then you also have the community calendar
Right.
aspect. So it's two things.
Right. And again, so you asked me kind of what next.
Yeah.
Those are like first steps of taking existing and try to improve it. And then the second step is the community calendar and figuring out how it ties in.
But you can't, I mean, you can't start to improve I don't know, I guess I don't understand what you mean by improve the video side. Are you talking about like the actual user interface? Or are you just talking about like the process flow of like where the servers connect and things like that?
I think both.
Okay. Like I am good at like the cookie crumbs, right? Like figuring out how to click and what's intuitive. And also like business rules, right? Like I think that's like an important next step is like if we're gonna do the calendar, what are the rules to post and to launch, right? Like I think that's a big decision because if there's ever...
And even before that, I think there is I'll call it user requirements.
Mhm.
If we put ourselves in the shoes of the general public, what makes this approachable? What makes it something they want to engage with? And what are things that turn them off? And really thinking through that from that perspective. And when you talk calendar, that then translates into what those rules are.
Right.
It's like, okay, I don't want an interface that shows me 1,000 things. I need findability, discoverability.
Right.
So how that's a separate thing, but you
Mhm.
know, what are the things that make it approachable? So
Compliance, like if it's a city sponsor, does it have to be 508 compliant? I'm guessing yes,
yeah,
which is I think simple with a lot of technical stuff.
realistically, it's impossible, but there are things that people do that are a step in the right direction.
Colors, fonts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, anticipation
Mm-hmm.
of moving forward, like maybe I can take a couple things that I can do before our next meeting, whenever that is. It can be 2 weeks from now or right before the 4th of July. Looking at best examples of like where there's community calendars, like some really good examples. And I like the idea of simplicity also, especially if you're like on, slow internet, loadability and all of that. Probably not going to be watching a lot of videos if you are that slow, but for other people who just want to come for the calendar,
Yes.
I can,
Yep.
also think about the mobile, like a mobile application of it as
Yep.
well.
Yep.
I can, examples of things that are on web that also translate into the mobile app of what that looks like on calendar. I can do that. I can start to kind of just flesh through some of the rules or like find other people's rules of community-based calendars that are inclusive of, it's got to be a public event and all of those kinds of things can't be excluded. Just pull up find some examples of people's calendars. And another one though that I think is going to be huge, thinking down the road, is like the administrative work to submit, approve, and how that would work.
Yes.
That's huge, right? Because you don't want to be tied down to like, just submitted my idea, or my event is tomorrow, but how come you haven't approved it, right? Like, you do not want anyone contacting you to do it.
Right.
So how does that
Right.
going to work?
And I know from my interactions with the Tourism Bureau that is a challenge, because, I mean, to make that work somewhat efficiently, the users have to self-report, and there needs to be an approval process.
Right.
But one of the things that's important is that the content actually be quality,
Yeah.
and not everyone knows how to write concise descriptions of things. So you don't want 3 paragraphs of a description of an event.
Template.
Right. But the other is, it's very important when presenting the information to have, an icon or something, and that tends to be very difficult for users, even users hosting the event, to provide you any sort of branding or any sort of, because lines and lines and lines of text is not
Right.
productive. Typically, you're going to have an icon next to each event that's kind of its logo, and
There's this rule number 1: in order to submit, you must have a brand. Yeah.
which, again, that's a skill that not everybody has, and we don't necessarily want to exclude, but
it's
we don't want to be producing those either. So
No, but you
it's
could-
just, again,
And
for the Tourism Bureau, they actually do create things where they're missing because their audience really expects it. We maybe, for certain audiences, can not have quite that expectation, but we still need to have those capabilities.
Right.
And that's just one that pops into my mind.
Right.
On that topic.
And there's so much free content right out there, right? Like design your own graphics, design,
Well, and that's part of the problem, is everything is free, but everything also tends to be low quality, because it's not held to any standards, and it's completely distributed, and therefore challenging to find.
Mm-hmm.
So by centralizing, you then start imposing rules which are limiting, but serve a purpose of trying to improve quality, usability, etc.
Okay.
But yes, those are all things. So I guess things I will work on is, I'm going to think through some of the video side of things more. And maybe next time I'll demo some of the capabilities of this video platform and some of the ideas I have about things that we could, layer on. I'll also look at a couple other sites. Other sites as well.
Okay. It's a good list.
Yeah. Is there anything else that we need to discuss tonight? That's the end of our agenda.
I mean, do you have any immediate wheels falling off the bus with the server? I mean, obviously the Spectrum thing.
Because we're not, the server isn't
Oh,
doing
yeah, it's-
anything, because there is no,
So you're just doing everything from,
it's all just YouTube.
from wherever you are,
Yep.
wherever you happen to be.
Yep.
Okay. All right, so I owe the minutes for this and then the things that I had talked about doing.
Yep.
Okay. And,
So then we need to think of our next meeting.
yeah,
I think doing call it a work session between now and our next regular meeting makes sense. So our next regular meeting is July 1st. Does that work for you?
the first does work,
Okay.
but in between then
I just want to make sure that we were okay for that.
Yeah, that does.
Again, because we're only two of us, we both have to be here, so.
Do you like Monday nights, or does it always have to be on Mondays?
It does not.
Oh, okay.
It does not matter.
Because there's a group bicycle ride I like to do on Mondays when it's happening. But I'll see how it goes for the rest of the month. What about like meeting the week of the 17th through the
I was
21st?
just gonna say,
Juneteenth is, the 19th is a holiday, so not the 18th or 19th, but the 17th or the 20th. 20th being preferable right now.
that would be fine for me, so. 6 PM on the 20th?
Yeah, that's good. Here?
We don't know that this is available. So could you?
I can check on
the
that
calendar
tomorrow.
And see if the.
Yep.
And if not.
June 20th, 6 p.m.
Yeah. And I'm fine to go a little earlier if need be, if there's something at 6.
6 is about as early as.
You got an airport to run.
I usually work until 6, so. Then I guess the other thing is that would also then need to be posted as a meeting.
Okay.
So follow up with staff on.
So if it's open, go ahead, post it, and
Yep.
get it rolling.
Yep.
Okay.
Please.
Yep. And I'll email that info to you probably tomorrow afternoon.
Yep. Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay.
Productive.
Motion to adjourn.
What am I doing?
You're making a motion to adjourn, and I'll support it.
And your
I'll support it.
support?
And all in favor? Aye. Meeting adjourned at 6:42.
Please